Okay, thank you all for joining us today for the next episode of the On the Mark Financial Forum and podcast. We have a little bit different angle we're going to be approaching things with today. I'm happy to invite my co-host for the day, Linda Hooper from the Samburu Project, to join us. We're going to talk about some philanthropic mission that is very important to me and my family, and Linda and I were fortunate enough to be able to meet each other as we were searching for a charity to partner with. So Linda, we'd love to have you introduce yourself to the group and tell us a little bit about yourself and the Samburu Project organization.
Hello, Mark, and everybody out there who might be watching us. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I will confess this is my first podcast. I'm very excited.
Well, so far so good.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So the Samburu Project is a small organization that is headquartered in Los Angeles. The bulk of our mission work is actually executed in a very dry place in northern Kenya called Samburu, hence our name. It was started in 2005 by another woman who went to Kenya, was actually interested in starting some kind of philanthropic work that would benefit women and girls. And when she was in Kenya, she was kind of canvassing all kinds of women's groups. And the one thing she heard every place she went was the word water, because women and girls are tasked with procuring water for the family. That daily chore is a barrier to education and economic empowerment and so many other social ills that actually are prominent in that community. So she came back, she started the Samburu Project with the idea to provide access to clean water for women and girls in northern Kenya. And the water, as we say, would have a ripple effect in all of those communities where we offer water. Since that time, we've drilled 147 wells, and we are on the track to drill another 10 this year. My involvement with the Samburu Project actually started in 2010. Our founder had been up and running for 5 years, and we were I was invited to go to a celebration for their 25 wells. And so when I went there, I was actually an art dealer. My chosen profession was I had been a gallery director for many, many years. And when I went to the fundraiser for the 25 wells, I thought, wow, this is an incredible woman who's doing this fantastic work. And I had been to Kenya. I had a connection to that place. And so I just called her up and said, hey, do you need a volunteer? Do you need extra hands? And so in 2010, I became a volunteer and then a board member. And as they say, the rest is history.
Amazing. Well, you guys do incredible work. And just for context, why Linda and I met. So my family and I went to Kenya in the summer of 2022, and we're just very inspired by the people, by the land, by the challenges that people have, just everyday challenges. And as Linda mentioned, we saw it firsthand. There was such a dramatic drought, and talking to locals, the people who live off the land, so to speak, were really, really struggling. And education is something that's always been really important to my family and I, and helping other people make sure that they can get that education. So when we were there, we really got a good understanding of what the challenges were, and that, you know, kids who are very, very capable, very smart, just are never given an opportunity because of what you mentioned, Linda. They're spending hours and hours a day in search of water, and usually that water is not even clean or healthy to drink when they get it. And it just inspired us, after learning also, you know, on the education side, how much it actually costs to send Kenyan children to school. It could be $500 or less a year. And these, you know, it's such a poor third world country that they can't afford it. And that just seemed wrong to me. like something had to be done. So now, and we'll talk about this a little more later, but our team is now partnering with the Samburu project to help raise awareness and raise funds. So whenever we close a transaction, we're going to be making a donation and encouraging other parties to that transaction to do the same if they're so inclined. So yeah, we're very excited, but I felt the same inspiration that you felt. You see something, especially when you can see it with your own eyes. It really, I mean, that trip changed our lives. I'm so grateful for being able to go there. My wife had been there as a kid, and we had some great, nostalgic moments for her along that trip. But the thing that stuck with me the most, it wasn't seeing the animals and all that, even though that was incredible. It was really the people and the small changes that people from the US could make, that completely could change the trajectory of these people's lives with not very much money from a US perspective. And
It's
that's
very
what stuck
true.
with me the most.
Yeah, it's very true. When you have that experience, which I am a firm believer in travel being the greatest educator of all, when I was there the first time, and I was like you on a safari, I was seeing animals and the landscape was so beautiful, but there was a nagging, persistent realization when you're driving on the road and you see women carrying 40 pounds of water on their back or on their head and a baby. You just can't help but think, I was born lucky to be in the United States where water just comes out of my tap. And it's a very small, for a very small investment, you get a big return on that investment. Like you said, you can really change someone's life by just offering them water and getting them to school. And it is really a great joy in my life to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you're doing incredible work. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, the connection between water and education and so much else. So maybe you can describe, because you've actually seen it firsthand, when you open a well, what does it do for that community?
It's really there. It's the experience is so far from what we have here in the United States. It's almost unimaginable, because the most recent well that we opened just this past summer is in a very, very dry place. And you have to remember that Kenya is right on the equator. So they are really on the front lines of climate change. They've been knowing that their rainy season is getting shorter or non-existent for a generation already. So when we identified this one community that needed water, they had really no hope that we would be successful, because the government had come and surveyed the land. Other bigger named NGOs had come and surveyed the land, and they were told repeatedly, there's no water here, there's no water here. Our hydrogeologist actually identified a point where there was water, very deep in the ground though, actually kind of beyond our normal modus operandi. And we didn't give up. And when we came to the community and we said, we think we found a point, we now have to find a donor to kick in those extra funds that are needed to drill so deep, they just didn't believe it, because they had women who had 5 kids, 6 kids, had been promised water from so many places, and it never happened. So they had really been walking 5, 6, 7 hours every day to go collect water that, as you said, is dirty. Like, there's no way any of us would drink it. So the day came when, we brought the drill rig and we were drilling and drilling and drilling, which takes many days to go that deep. But when the water came out from the ground, the joy, you can't even put a word on it. There was, everyone from their village was singing and dancing and praying and, bathing themselves in the raindrops that were coming down from the well as the water burst from the earth. So I'm very lucky that I can go there and see that and know how it impacts people, but it's my challenge to share that with all of our donors and our community, because it really is such a amazing and beautiful thing. Like, when I lay my head on my pillow at night, I know, I did a good thing. And all
Absolutely.
the big community that we have with us is right there in my heart with me.
Yeah, and I saw the video of that moment. It was wow.
Right?
It gives you chills. Yeah, it was incredible. Just the joy on these people's faces who have struggled so much just with things that we all take for granted. And I think what happens, what people don't understand is what changes in the lives of these people once they have the water, right? Because when we were there was probably the worst of the drought. I think they've had a little bit of rain since then, but it was really bad. And the tribes that we were speaking with were all saying our livestock all died because there's no water, so there's nothing for them to feed on. And so the livestock that they rely on to live,
Everything.
they're not there, and they can't build their houses the way that they normally would because of that. But also the thing that really struck me the most is that every tribe we spoke to mentioned the word education,
Right.
education, education. I think people really miss the link between when you draw a well in a location which is generally pretty remote, and what happens with education, with building of schools, with other communities that can now benefit. So I'm curious if you can help the audience make that connection, not just as far as the girls having to walk 7-8 miles a day to gather the water, but just what you see flourishing within the community once the well is drilled.
Yes, it's immediate. I mean, immediate. The well that we just drilled, which by the name of the well is Cognac. They were already, when the drill rig was there, they were organizing themselves. The community had identified a member of their tribe that had graduated secondary school and came back to the village and was married. But because she had some education herself, she was tapped to be the teacher. So right away, they identified a big tree that will provide shade. And that's their school, a big tree with a lot of shade. And this woman comes and she teaches the little ones like a preschool, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. And I mean, it's overnight. The water came out and the school was there the next week. So the people there are, as you mentioned, they're smart, they are resilient, they are really innovators for what they've been given. So when they just have this one resource that we all just were born with, when they have water, they realize this is a ticket to bigger opportunities to educate their kids. And then once they have that little preschool going, they can apply to the government for an actual classroom. And then they start a primary school, and that just kind of grows like that. Women then are able to, they're not walking for water all day long, so they're able to start small businesses by going to the market, buying flour and sugar and foodstuffs, coming back to their village, selling that amongst themselves, banding their money together to engage in livestock, animal husbandry and selling of animals. So it is a game changer. It is the absolute core of community development.
Yeah. And each well can serve how many people?
We calculate each well serves about 1,000 people. Some are less, some are more. And in Samburu, people are nomadic. Historically, they would take their animals, walk them to where there was water, and kind of make a loop. But we find that as those water sources are drying up, there's nowhere for them to go. So providing a well means that the men don't have to be out wandering, looking for pasture land. With every well, there's an animal trough. Many communities are very organized and they make a schedule. These people get water for their animals on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This group gets water for their animals on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And then I think it strengthens the family unit that people aren't roaming around, they're able to settle. And that also promotes education, because when you're being nomadic and you're moving around looking for water, that's another reason kids can't go to school. So it really does go hand in hand. You can separate the water from the education. And also, even schools that are developed, like a secondary school that the government has provided, they don't provide water. It's inconceivable to us that you would go to primary school or any school and not have water, not have sanitation, not have toilets. That is a whole other issue. And so when we sink that borehole or that well for a community, we're not just on to the next community. We stay there and try and support them as they grow. So when they get that schoolhouse, we help them to provide like a pit latrine toilet. We offer hand washing stations. We kind of help them as the school grows, as the community grows, we stay with them. They're our partners for life. That's
amazing. And you guys have drilled now almost 150 wells.
Right.
Which means so far if approximately 1,000 people per well are helped, that's 150,000 people.
Yeah.
What is the population of Samburu approximately?
320,000, more or less. And it's roughly the size of the state of Massachusetts, just to give you an idea of the area that we're covering. We often get that question, are you going to expand into other locations? And my answer is that at this point, no, for two reasons. One, our team in Samburu of 5, they are there doing all that work on the ground, assisting with other additional programs, helping with well maintenance. And because they're Samburu, they are the secret sauce. You know, they're part of the community. They know where all those wells are, and they are invested in the growth of that community. So I couldn't just pick up and go, oh, I want to do that same work in Uganda, unless I had a team in a similar vein. The other thing is that the wells are just part one. All the other programs for health, education, women's empowerment, and community growth, that's also a big part of what we're doing. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, then that's one of the main benefits. I think people don't make that connection between water and everything else that happens. You mentioned commerce starts, education starts, empowerment starts, and just giving these people hope to be able to do bigger and better things if they choose to do so. And there's nothing wrong with the tribal life, don't get me wrong, but a lot of these families, even what really inspired me was these tribal families really want their kids to get that secondary education. They want them to go to college. And like, these people are the potential future leaders of a country, like, you know, and they're just not given a shot because they don't have access to the things that, you know, we take for granted every single day. And that's what, you know, for me, and it's stuck with me since the day we were there. It's just, it's so simple to make a huge difference in their lives. And it just seemed unfathomable that, you know, for example, for $500, you could send a kid to school for the entire year who would have no education otherwise.
Right.
That's like, okay, here, take, let's help as many as we can.
Right. And you hit on a really important point, that was the families that you met, they want these things. It's we are very sensitive to our collaboration with communities there. We're, as Americans, aren't going there and saying, you need to do this and you need to do that. We are really community driven. The communities come to us and apply for water relief. They come to us and say, I want to have a garden in my school. Can you help me? So we are taking the lead from them because, as you say, they are future leaders of their country, and they know what's best for their community more than I do, sitting here in my office in Culver City.
Right. Exactly. And that's so important because, as we've learned, because it's a tribal culture, you really need the buy-in of the elders, so to speak, and
Absolutely.
You need them to be on board. And that's why your organization is so amazing, because you don't only have people in the US, but you have people on the ground in Samburu who not only drill the wells, but they're doing community relations. They're helping people figure out how to apply and connecting with the communities that need these things so badly. So,
Yes.
and you mentioned, 147 wells so far, 1,000 people per well, and a population over that area of 325,000. You have, as your organization alone, has single-handedly affected half of the population of the size of the state of Massachusetts. Like,
Yeah, it
it's
keeps us busy, I'll
incredible.
tell you.
I'm sure, but you guys are doing such amazing work, and that's why we're so excited to be partnering with you. And you know, for me personally, I do mortgages, quote unquote. What can I do to help? So for me, I was starting to think about how with real estate, when you have a closing of a purchase of a home, it's just an explosion of money, right? Buyers, sellers, people are giving money, getting money, real estate professionals, loan people, all these different people are getting something from this transaction that, is a function of our society. And it just seemed like a perfect opportunity to try to raise awareness for this and to, try to raise capital. My goal is to try to raise enough to build a well per year, on an ongoing basis, and hopefully expand that even further. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the cost. Like, what does it cost to build a well and to maintain it?
Sure. You know what, I want to just, before we move on to that, I just want to say that I really do applaud you for kind of the creative thinking. Like, what can I do? I'm a mortgage broker. Because I do think that, I really do firmly believe that we are all very much connected. And I mean, that's the one big lesson that I hope we all learned through the, recent pandemic. I had a high school girl in 2017 come to me and say she wanted to drill a well. She went around her neighborhood collecting donations. And at a certain point, she realized, like, this is not going to be enough. So she talked to her mother, and they happen to be Indian Americans, and they're very active in a dance company. So they decided that what they would do is hold a recital, and they would have all their dance company have a performance, and then have this beautiful Indian meal after, and they invited their whole community to come. They raised enough money for half a well that one evening, and it was absolutely amazing. She felt so excited. Well, then the pandemic came, and that family actually just went to Kenya 2 months ago or a month ago to visit their well. And it brought the whole experience full circle to realize how their actions doing an Indian dance in Manhattan Beach could translate to sending little girls to school on the other side of the world. It just makes me so proud of the community that we have to support Samburu Project. So to anyone who's watching this, think outside the box, because we are all capable of doing something. And we love working with people. We've had kids give their bar and bat mitzvah, as you well know, for the Samburu Project. I've had people give their wedding gifts and birthday gifts for Samburu Project. There's just a whole host. So we're so proud of the community that supports our work. With regard to the cost, our general well is a hand pump, and that is drilled at 70 meters. It's replenished when there's rains. So sometimes that's problematic in between the rainy seasons, but so far so good. We have really been able to maintain that model, as I said, since 2005. Our first well that was drilled in 2006 is still operating, still pumping water. So that's really great. And that cost $24,000. Of that $24,000, more than half of that goes to our well driller. And then there's a hydrogeological survey. There's mobilizing the community, which means fulfilling requirements that are regulated by the Kenya government to prove that this is a community that is suffering from lack of water. We have a lot of bureaucratic steps we have to go through. So we have to assist the community to comply with those regulations. $1,000 of that is kind of saved as a rainy day fund in case there are repairs that come up that are beyond the community's capability to pay for. And as a result of all those provisions and safeguards, I'm happy to say that over 90% of our wells are still working. So we're very, very proud of that. The average globally, worldwide, is that less than 60% of all wells after 2 years, those hand pump wells are still working. So again, the secret sauce is our staff who's there and helping communities keep those wells working. The well that we just drilled, this well at Cognac, we looked for water source at 70 meters and our hydrogeologist said, no, there's no water at 70 meters, but he did find water at 200 meters. So that's drilling almost 3 times the depth. And so the drilling is more expensive, and then you can't pull the water out of the ground with a hand pump. You need electricity or solar or something. So the whole project just gets bigger and bigger and more costly. And so that a deep well is in the neighborhood of 40,000, could go up to 45,000. So it's a much more expensive project to manage. But I think as we're getting more and more into the real extremes of climate change, more and more of our projects are going to be probably having to be drilled at that depth.
Right. But
So
if
we
you
appreciate those
figure-
mortgage buyers.
Yes, for sure. I always appreciate those for sure, because it allows me to pay it forward to these efforts. So and that's become one of my whys of what I do is incorporating this, and just feeling so inspired after that trip to find ways to help. It just seems like an injustice in the world that these people are struggling, for basic needs, and that, again, from a US perspective, it actually doesn't take that much effort and contribution to make a meaningful impact.
Yeah.
And our goal is, again, to raise enough to do at least one well per year. And I would love to be there when that well hits water, and just to see that moment of excitement, but just to see primarily how it changes the community. And education is the piece that I've kind of tied in. So we've now built a landing page together where we'll be sending people after the transaction. We'll be donating ourselves. I already started the donation, but we're just kicking this off. And we're so excited to be doing this, because it's just, it's such an important thing. And I think oftentimes, people have this perception of what Africa is like, or what these remote areas are like, and that, it's these nomadic people that don't really have any interests or, desire for education or anything like that. And that's what really, one of the things that really stuck with me is that the perception of what we see on television, you see these philanthropic missions that just show these kids with flies on them. It's just not what's actually happening. Yeah, it really is.
It's so degrading. We, have a marketing strategy that we do not do that. We do not buy into what they call pity porn. Everybody on the planet is worthy of dignity. And just because someone is born into a situation where they don't have water and sanitation, they should be afforded the same dignity as you and me. So we're not about that. I actually had someone say to me once, "Oh, when you're on your website or on your Instagram, the people don't really look that, that needy." And I said, well, they're needy, but they still have a smile. They are amazing and doing the best they can. I hate those ads. You see late night TV with kids, like you said, with flies on their faces, and I don't really buy into that at all.
Yeah, and for anyone who's been to Kenya before, one of the things that I noticed was that for a larger population that has so little, I mean, it's a third world country, right? So they have so little, but the people are so hospitable. They're so welcoming. They're so kind. And they're not, we come from a place where if you don't have material things, you're upset about it and you're down, and, and there it's such an uplifting place, because people have so little, yet their attitude and their approach to life is at its core so right, because they care about the things that are really important, and they don't really get caught up in things that we may get caught up in here.
It's true.
Their perspective is different.
I would be remiss if I didn't also mention to your community the programs that we have really leaned into in the last 5 years having to do with menstruation. It's not always a polite conversation to have, but we don't, that's another thing that we don't realize as women and girls in the West, that having the knowledge and the ability to manage your monthly menstruation is another thing that really does impede equity and equality and a girl's ability to go to school. It's really shocking when you find out there's such a taboo there about getting your period, that when those days come, people just keep their girls home. They don't go to school. So if you think about that, of every 4 weeks of school, you miss 1 week, you're going to fall behind real fast. And this has now become a very, very hot topic for girls. There's so many organizations working to affect that problem. So about 5 years ago, we thought, now that people have water, we need to jump into that space as well. So every May, we have a big fundraising campaign that we raise funds to give schoolgirls reusable, that's the important part, the reusable menstrual pads, because with water, they can clean those products. And we partner with an amazing company in Kenya called PadMad. Those products are reusable for 5 years. So that will keep a girl in secondary school. And every year that program is growing and growing and growing. I think our last year, for 2023, we've probably given away 2,600 of these reusable kits. And we also give soap and underwear, so the girls are totally set. It's really an important, big issue. And it's an easy thing. For $10, you can give a girl these kits. So whether you want to give a well, or you want to sponsor a girl with menstrual hygiene kit, there's really so many ways for people to get involved with us. And it's a very, very important issue.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, it again, small amounts of money can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
If you're talking about $10 per kit, for a girl to be able to stay in school and get the education and just give them a chance to do the things that they're dreaming of doing with their lives. It's really, again, it just keeps coming down to me that such a small amount that someone could give, and the impact that you can have is so far beyond the dollars that people might be able to contribute. So,
and we wouldn't even miss it. We go to Starbucks and spend $10 like nothing.
Exactly.
So it's a small thing that makes a huge impact in Kenya.
Yeah, absolutely. And after going there, you really come back and you look at things differently. That's why it was such an inspiring trip for my family and I, because my kids were with me and my wife, and they look at the world differently because of that trip. Like you said, education, and travel are so interrelated.
Yeah.
But it was just such an incredible, inspiring trip, and it, like any other, and I've been to some other places that were amazing as well. But this one really, really inspired me to take action. And I'm so glad that you and I were able to connect and find each other, and be able to find a way to participate. So, but I want to make sure other people know how, like, what can they do other than giving money. We have a donation page. People can do it there if they choose to. But if they want to somehow get involved, or maybe you could talk about the events that you guys do, like how can people engage with the Samburu project?
Sure. Thank you for bringing that up. Because we are, when I say small organization, by small, I mean, we have less than 10 people on our staff. We have 2 full-time people, 2 part-time people here in the US, and then 5 full-time people in Kenya. So we are pretty stretched. So we're always looking for people that have a special skill that they can assist us with. If you're in marketing or accounting, or you have some kind of special skill, we're always looking for people to volunteer and offer their time, because that's something that we can't pay for. And by the way, when we're paying for accountants and marketing people, that means we're not using that money for our mission. So we have to be very lean and mean with our expenses. So we're always looking for people, professionals that are interested in getting involved with us. So that's one way. We also do, like Mark said, have events throughout the year. So March is World Water Day. We have a lot of events around World Water Day for kids in their schools to help spread awareness and raise money by doing swimming laps for water or running around the track laps for water. So we involve a lot of families and schools to that degree. April is Earth Day, so we have similar events around Earth Day. Then May is Menstrual Hygiene Day at the end of the month. So the spring is really action-packed with a lot of different campaigns. We do have an internship program. So for those of you who are out there who live in Los Angeles, we have 3 cohorts of interns each year. The summer internships tends to be longer because obviously we're on summer vacation. And we hold 2 spots for high school kids and 4 spots for college kids. There's always a lot of projects in our office for interns. We have photo tagging, helping with social media, updating our well map, helping us to prepare for Splash Bash, our big fundraiser in the fall. So there's many ways, like and then like I said, we have people that help fundraise for their birthdays or bat mitzvahs or just a happy Friday, you know. So there's a lot of different ways, and there's probably things I haven't even thought of. So if you have an idea of something that you would like to do that might lend itself to our work, please feel free to email me or call, because we love building our community with like-minded people.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you have a skill that isn't necessarily related directly to what you're doing, like real estate or mortgages, it may seem like there's no connection, but you can make a connection.
Yeah,
If you're so
absolutely.
inclined. So that's how we're going to help. And my hope is that we'll be raising lots of money and opening lots of wells and changing the lives of thousands of people along the way.
I think even, we keep hearing so much about, people's mental health as we're coming out of the pandemic, and people are looking for a purpose in their life that really, gives your life meaning in a different way. Our board chair is a lawyer. He volunteers for other organizations. He's like the busiest man in the world, but doing this work and being part of our organization, he said that like really rounds out his life. So like yourself, being in a profession that has nothing to do with this work, being a part of it just gives you a sense of purpose. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm also very proud of the fact that your family and so many others that connect to the developing world, something that seems very off our radar, but we're all on this big planet together. And so I love the fact that our organization, because it's small, because, you can drill a well and I tell you, these are the people that are drinking your water and you have this connection. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I love being part of that. So I think it's exciting to be part of your podcast to help share that story with your followers and your community, because there's more work to do.
There is. Yeah. And that work will probably never end, but you're right. It does give us purpose. It gives me meaning to what I do, even though I love advising people and educating people on real estate. I think we can all kind of take a step back and appreciate the fact that we're even able to be talking about real estate and the amount of money that transfers hands in a real estate transaction. And could we all do something productive to help others at those moments? And that's why I was inspired to find a way.
It's very exciting.
I'm no saint or anything, but it just coming back from that trip was just so inspiring, and I'm so glad that we were able to find you. So how can people connect with you? Email address, website, like what's
Sure.
the way for people to find you?
So the first tricky thing is teaching people how to say and spell our name. So it's sometimes a little mouthful, but so don't forget the Samburu, like the man's name, SAM, and then BURU project. So you can go to the samburuproject.org to look at our website. There's amazing photos and newsletters and videos and a lot of resource material that will tell our story. We're on every social channel, Instagram, Facebook, no longer Twitter, LinkedIn. We post regularly. You can make a donation if you like, on our website or on any of those socials. I also want to make a plug for company matching, because there are a lot of companies out there now that don't double the donations of their employees. So I have a really good friend who works for Bank of America. Shout out to them. They double all her donations. So that also makes her feel really good that she's able to have twice the impact because of her donations. You can email me, linda@thesamburuproject.org. I would love to hear from you. Anybody out there who has a specialized skill or that wants to, have a birthday party for their kid, or a lemonade stand or something to raise funds, or have a walk for water, I would love to hear from you. We also take stocks. We have a brokerage account. We're pretty easy to find. So I hope to hear from some of you.
Yeah. And if anybody can't find you, they know where to find me, hopefully. And
that's right.
If you go to our website, which is markmyman.com, you'll see the photo that you saw on the cover screen of this session, which was myself and one of the tribal leaders when we were there in Kenya. And pretty obvious that that's the area of our website where you can click to learn more about my experience and my involvement. But more importantly, a link to our donation page where people can choose different denominations of what they want to contribute. And again, our angle, so to speak, is the education side, but it all comes from the clean water. So the goal is to raise as much money as we can, sponsor one child for the year of school, transportation costs, materials like uniforms, because all secondary schools are uniform schools there.
Right.
Very different than driving your kid to and from school every morning. So there's lots of different ways to help. Even with a small amount of money, it all adds up, and we hope people will feel inspired to contribute, whether they're closing a real estate transaction or not. If you know us and you like what you hear, we would definitely welcome people to contribute in that way. So Linda, I want to thank you so much first of all, for all the work that you do. It's incredible. It's inspiring. I feel so lucky to have met you and to be engaged. And I got to go to your Splash Bash event just a week or two ago, and it was amazing. And you guys raised almost $250,000 in one night, which was fantastic. Not all of that was for me.
We're going to be having all those videos on our YouTube channel soon. I should give you a plug for that. Yeah.
Perfect. That
sounds
so glad
great. You came.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great event. It was really inspiring to see other people, thousands and thousands of miles away. You kind of come back from this trip and wonder who else cares about this, right? Because it's not something that's in our face every day.
Right.
And it was incredible. There were, probably 200 people there, maybe more, who are committed to this cause and helping in ways that people can help. And so I'm really excited to be continuing to partner together for a very long time and to hopefully change some lives along the way. That's the goal. So
thank you so much. I also feel, Mark, so grateful for you and your family to, reach out and find us. And it really does, we're just the two of us here in our office every day. So, finding people in our community who are like-minded, it makes my job just great to be building a community of like-minded people. And I know there's more out there. So get in touch with Mark or me if you're watching. There's more work to do, and it's a lot of fun.
There is, for sure. And you feel good doing it. I will say it's definitely given me a sense of pride to be not just pursuing my own financial benefit, but to have a cause that it's tied to, and to really be contributing in ways and expanding our network of people that might be able to learn about the organization and find different ways to help, whether it's monetarily or otherwise. So, so
and
Linda,
to be a force for good in this world that's often, challenging, let's just say.
It is for sure. And one of the things that's most inspiring to me is to inspire my kids to do good things and to find ways to not just benefit for yourself and put money in your own pocket, but when you're fortunate to put money in your own pocket, find a way to give some of that to somebody else who might not be as fortunate. So,
and to make the world a better place. We're all in it together.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Well,
so much,
Linda,
Mark. This was a lot of fun. My first podcast. Thanks.
hopefully the first of many.
Thanks.
But I really appreciate you spending the time to help build awareness around this. And we're
Yeah.
just launching this. This is brand new for us. So my hope is that the zeros will continue to grow after we get word out there, and we're looking forward to partnering with you more, and we'll definitely direct people in your direction, whoever is interested in learning more. So thank you so much for joining us, Linda. And to those of you who are followers of our podcast and Financial Forum, we'll be back again in a few weeks, and look forward to the next session. So Linda, thanks again. And I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Bye-bye.
day. Bye.